Hello, and thank you for having me. My name's Kieran McCartan. I'm a professor in criminology at the University of the West of England, which is based in Bristol in the southwest of England. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the importance of volunteers and why they're so essential to the Circles model, both in terms of what they do and actually then being able to deliver the model and why it really speaks to the core and the heart of Circles. So I've been involved with Circles and support and accountability for nearly 15 odd years now, and currently I'm the chair of the board of trustees of Circles Southwest, which is one of our English versions of Circles of Support and Accountability, and I'm the research chair um, of Circles Europe. I've also been involved in Circles of Support and Accountability training and research in other countries, including in the US and in Australia as well. So over the years, I've accrued quite a bit of knowledge and had many conversations about this. One of the most important things about circles is this premise. It's premise that people can change and people can be supported in their integration back into the community. People who commit sexual abuse and sexual offences come from communities and they go back into communities, and community is essential in not only how we think about sexual abuse and sexual violence, but how we prevent it, both in terms of first time offending and in terms of repeat offending as well. So the circles model really talks to how do you get a community involved? How do you build community expertise around sexual abuse and sexual violence so that not only do members of the community, lay members, non professionally trained members, understand what it looks like, but also understand what the police, prison, probation systems and how community engagement actually works with these individuals. So, with circles, having community members is essential. The idea of having your circle of people from the local community who understand local community issues and can talk to people who they work with, the core members, in a grounded, in a straightforward, in a helpful way is absolutely essential. So circles doesn't necessarily work as well or as effectively if you don't have community members. So being able to go out and recruit active community members from places like universities, from places like jobs and careers, but even people who are retired and who are looking to engage in activities that allow them to help and support the integration of people back into society is really important and really helpful. But volunteers can't do this by themselves. You may have a willingness to engage, but it would be irresponsible to not train you to a certain degree around this. And that's why our Circles projects look after and train and support and are there for their volunteers. And that's why quite often we certainly see it in Circle Southwest. We have a contingent of volunteers that come back year on year on year and continue to work with many different core members because they know the circles is a safe space. They know that they'll get some training and support, but they also know that they'll be looked after by their coordinators and by the organization. So when people think about volunteering, they shouldn't just be thinking about the population they'll be working with, but they should also be thinking about the support infrastructure and the help that they'll be getting with that. And so, even though COSA Norway is in its early stages, it is well and truly putting volunteers and volunteering at the very core of what it does in the way that it thinks about its organization and the way that it thinks about helping in the integration back into society. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about that integration and why volunteers are good for that and why lay members of the public are good for that. And it comes back to this idea of community. So people come from communities. We are not isolationists, we're socialists and social beings. And community really matters. And research has shown that people who are engaged in communities, who return to communities, whether that's through getting a job, building a positive support network, all of those proactive factors that improve health and well-being, that allow you to engage in a proactive way of being, really helps in desistance. Now, desistance is how people stop offending. So if we have a strong community that understands and engages and supports people who are being released from prison or who are on probation for committing sexual offences, especially child sexual offences, they're less likely to reoffend. They're less likely to go back into the system. And research has shown that people who are in the community and pro-socially community engaged over a period of years can drop in their risk level. Over a 20-year period, colleagues like Carl Hansen found that your risk level can drop from very high to very low. And the community support enables that to happen. And the circles, because they're made up of volunteers from communities, really become the engine room of this. They understand the concerns of the community around the person who's returning to it, the core member, but they also understand the core member's concerns and can talk with a local knowledge and a local ease about all of this. But also, because of their training, they're able to translate and navigate sometimes complicated criminal justice and probation conversations that maybe the core member doesn't understand. And that translation tool is essential. And the core member will often leave the circle feeling the most beneficial thing has been the engagement with the community and the engagement with the volunteers, because they feel that people have heard their story. They feel that people are on their side and want them to improve, that they want them to not reoffend. And some of the social stigma has been removed for their engagement around the offences that they've committed and the label that they carry, especially when you hear the bigger community, whether that's the media or the press, talking in a very negative way about this. So, what you've probably heard me say over the last 7 or 8 minutes is really that volunteers are central to this. It's a big undertaking, it's a pro social undertaking. You, as a volunteer, will get help and will get support and will get insight out of this. And also, the core member will receive some help and support, and then ongoing tools and roles and abilities to manage their risk management in the future. And the wider society gets something out of this. It gets an increase in harm reduction, it gets an increase in community safety, child protection, and reducing sexual abuse as well. So I just want to thank you for inviting me tonight. I've really enjoyed our opportunity to talk and to meet with you. And please enjoy the rest of the event. Best wishes, Kieran.